Hello and welcome to the art of decision making. Before we begin, you need to understand who Ram Charan is, whose work we base on to create this video. Ram Charan is a world-renowned business advisor, author, and speaker who has spent the past 35 years working with many top companies, CEOs, and boards of our time. Here we focus on the topic of decision making, taking what he has learned in 3 decades of helping executives make them. Getting to the right answer on what has changed in the way executives make decisions has got tougher these days. The usual competitive analysis doesn't work well when technology keeps erasing industry boundaries and the pace of change is so fast that you can't wait for things to stabilize. Meanwhile, enormous opportunities that require big bets arise and vanish quickly, and any decision you make will be judged in the court of a public opinion. Good CEOs know it takes more than analytics to make decisions. Imagination and the ability to connect diverse insights come into play. Good executives don't let concerns about the consequences make them indecisive. However, regardless of how much you test decisions, uncertainty is a fact of life. So in addition to having the courage to make a big decision, you need the fortitude to deal with unpleasant surprises. You have to deal with the unexpected, and a great example of this is Ivan Seidenberg's investment in fiber optics as CEO of Verizon. The decision to grab a big opportunity can be destiny changing. If you don't do it, someone else will. You cannot wait for your normal planning cycle to change your strategy. The greatest mistake executives will ever make is to look in the rearview mirror at what they did last year or what their competition did. The most common reason for failure is putting the wrong person in a job and then not dealing with the mismatch. It's usually obvious who needs to go, and most of the time CEOs know it in their gut, but they decide not to do anything. There is an unstoppable trend which necessitates a great change in the attitude and mindset. The attitude and mindset needs to be that of a winner who does not resist the speed of change and drives new market opportunities. To put in a context that everyone is able to understand, great CEOs make good decisions. That's what puts them in a league of their own. Over the years, we've seen many companies that didn't want it to evolve at the same pace the world was changing. Big companies back at their time. Classic examples of these are companies such as Blockbuster or BlackBerry. The first one was consumed by what they thought was going to save them from emerging competition such as Netflix. By customer loyalty, this being one of the biggest reasons they ran out of business. They decided not to jump on board on what Netflix offered. They resisted the change of time, and time eventually kicked them out of the way. But what could have happened if Blockbuster followed what we heard before? Grabbing a big opportunity can be destiny changing. And for them, that destiny was not bright. John Antioco, the former Blockbuster CEO, had the chance of joining forces with Netflix, but he decided not to. He made the decision based on what made them special back at the time. Not seeing ahead of what comes next was his biggest mistake. I don't think I need to add anything on this matter. We all know at this point what happened to this company and how big is Netflix as a company right now. Moving on to the next one, BlackBerry was a huge company that was very well known for their cell phones back in the day. Now, this Canadian multinational company specializes on enterprise software and the Internet of Things. When they knew they were successful, they started to flood the market with many cell phones. What made them stood out from the competition was their innovation. Talking about how incorporated a QWERTY keyboard to the phone instead of clicking key by key like in the Nokia phones. That's what put them in the market back in the time. By 2005, they bet on the internet within their phones. So far, every move their CEO did was good. Not everyone was doing this once again. This made them stood out. They were pretty comfortable on how people went crazy with their three flag phones, so they decided they were going to keep them and change nothing. That was a mistake. And who was in charge of their doom? Well, honestly, themselves. Apple back in 2008, when they announced the first iPhone, they took over the market by storm. They thought Apple wanted to take a hold on other consumers. Well, guess what? They didn't. This is how their mind was set. Consumers, according to them, had two phones. The business one, that of course was the BlackBerry, and then they had another personal one, another phone by another company. But what made the iPhone special is that you could have both and more on your pocket. You could have your business, personal, and social life in one phone. So why would you as a consumer want a BlackBerry anymore? I honestly don't see why would anyone want one now. Mike Lazaridis, BlackBerry's founder, did not want the phone to change to a touchscreen, while James Basile, the then BlackBerry CEO, did want it to change to a touchscreen. He knew back then that it was the next step in innovation. So what went wrong? Well, he let concerns about the consequences make him indecisive and decided not to do it. A personal example is what happens when CEO doesn't connect on a human level with their co-workers. What do I mean by that? When an executive doesn't listen to anything else than their voice, usually doesn't work. I work on an editorial company from 2015 to 2018. The failure the company had was seeing the workers as just that and nothing more. In this company, the CEO had the final word and no one could change her mind. She made decisions based on her taste and not on what was trending at the time. Workers constantly came to her with different propositions on what was new and what was coming. Unfortunately, this came to a point where the competition took over the market because they would take on chances given to us first, but that the CEO would not take out of fear. The most successful CEOs actually develop and shape options in their minds. They reframe the issue as part of a broader phenomenon, maybe looking at it from the outside in with a longer time frame, imagination, and the ability to connect diverse insights come into play. The breaking point was when the editors, publicists, and receptionists suddenly quit, and in the blink of an eye, they had their own editorial company, and they surprised her company. Consequently, she ran out of business. And why? For not taking chances and not making the good calls when decision making showed up. Apart from all that we have heard throughout this video, we need to keep in mind 3 keys to make better decisions. Number 1, perceptual acuity. This gives people the ability to see change coming before anyone else does it. It entails searching the external environment for anomalies and opportunities, cutting through its complexity to identify the handful of variables that your decision will be based on, and imagining how these variables might combine to create different scenarios, which will generate new options for you to consider. Number 2, qualitative judgment. This allows people to formulate and select the right options. It develops as you build trustworthy, diverse social networks in and outside the company, and factor in the quality and biases. Move from the big picture down to the concrete specific. Think through the second and third order consequences and focus on the decisions you must make and decide who should make the others. And finally, number 3, credibility. If you don't have this, your decisions will never be accepted. It comes from listening to diverse and contradictory views, building support among the board, employees, and relevant external constituencies through performance and transparency, and having the courage to make the best decision, even if it is unpopular. Based on the given examples of Blockbuster and BlackBerry, the message Ram Charan gives on this paper is certainly for everyone. Everyone could be victim of their own comfort. If we don't have good making decision CEOs, we might as well close the company now. This also qualifies for when you don't want to take chances. Leaders don't win by playing it safe. If you ever see yourself in this position of decision making, you have to see all the cards that you can play at your favor. Foresee the outcome of what might happen and stick to what you decide on, even if your counterparts don't agree with you. You need to be prepared to deal with unpleasant surprises. That's it. Hope this video finds you well and helps you in the future of decision making.